Welcome back, Tribe. We're here today with special guest Mike Casto, who is a longtime martial artist, martial arts instructor, and he is the author featured on the blog site Have Lanka Will Travel. Today we're going to be talking about a recent post of Mike's regarding Roadhouse the movie and the lessons therein for martial artists and people everywhere. Mike, how are you doing today?
Excellent.
So, Mike, tell me why you chose Roadhouse as a theme for your blog posts.
I recently rewatched it, and it struck me how much impact it had on, like, some of the ways I perceive things, and I realized, in retrospect, that it had actually affected some of my mindsets in how I approach life in general.
So, Mike, share with the audience some of the insights that you got from Roadhouse the movie. And I will say this: it may sound comical to find value in a campy 80s movie, but I'm a firm believer that truth is everywhere that you find it. I've gleaned great pieces of information from comic books, from all kinds of bizarre sources. So to me, this is not that that unbelievable. But share with the audience things that you learned from Roadhouse the movie.
Right. To take a slight tangent away from the movie in general fiction. I also write fiction and am good friends with several really successful authors in various mediums. And one of the things that I have always found is that good fiction is always true. It's just not factual. And so you look at something like even a cartoon like Winnie the Pooh. It teaches valuable lessons, and there's a lot of truth in it, even though the stories are entirely fictional and made up. So yeah, Roadhouse as a movie, from a technical standpoint, definitely is not anything to brag about. but the lessons, some of the big lessons I learned from it. I won't say I learned them only from Roadhouse, but Roadhouse definitely had an influence, and it affirmed these lessons that I had learned in other ways in my life. It just sort of put them into a concise sort of format, something I could point to and go, yeah, this is a good way of phrasing this. And I think the biggest one is that when someone gets insulting, gets in your face, gets upset, it's not personal. It's never personal. It's never directed at you. Even if it seems that way, you can almost always point to a place that the person is actually upset with themselves or with the situation or whatever. And this is especially true in like a situation where you're bouncing, you're working security, you're a police officer, whatever, where you're not directly involved in the situation at all. They're not upset at you. You're just doing your job. But they attack you because you offer a vent for whatever they're feeling. One of the best examples of this for my personal life, where I saw it in action, was after my sister's fiance backed out 2 days before their wedding, and he realized he was at a party with a bunch of his friends, which were also my sister's friends, because they had dated through high school, and everybody was giving him the evil eye because he had broken up with Susan, and he was upset, but he was upset at himself. He realized he'd messed up, but he started venting that at other people, and that's a common theme. So when Patrick Swayze's character Dalton is talking to the bouncers that he's going to be working with, he explains that words are just words. If someone gets in your face and calls your name, it's not personal. It's just a name. And yeah, that's kind of the big one for me. And it comes out in a few different ways in the movie.
And Mike, I can totally resonate with that because I've identified moments where I've had conflict and, maybe the person's upset because, they're trying to get to work on time. They perceive you as cutting them off and, they start yelling at you and fighting with you. And they're not actually mad at you. They're mad at the situation that caused them to be late for work.
Right.
And then sometimes, you play, a small role in that because, maybe you don't give them the response that they want and you don't let them vent that anger so they get more angry with you. So that's definitely something that, I definitely can understand. What are some of the other things that you picked up from the movie? Or things that you picked up and were able to identify as things you've learned, I know, in previous areas of your life?
Yeah. Well, another one, and they all kind of tie back to that one. That's why that's the main one. It is always be nice. And if someone is upset, it doesn't really matter if they're upset at you or not. Usually they aren't. But if you meet them with the same sort of energy they're putting out, it almost always escalates the situation. Whereas if they're upset and you're able to be calm and polite and nice, and this is especially true in a professional atmosphere where, for instance, security work or whatever. But I've found it useful even outside of professional work, in just personal situations. If you're able to stay nice, keep a level head, you can't always de-escalate, but you can almost always prevent escalation. And you can usually steer it back towards the actual problem, and address the actual problem rather than letting everything wind out of control over the perceived problem.
Absolutely. And I think that's a lesson that a lot of people would do well to learn because, like you said, a lot of people will take things personally. That does lead to escalation. It does lead to not being nice. And like you said, yeah, just having some basic respect for people, even if there is conflict, can help to diffuse things drastically. So that's a great insight. Great insight.
Yeah.
Now, what about some of the other things in the movie? I've seen this movie probably a million times. I mean, it's one of those, things you watch as a kid on cable because you're sitting around in the summer and they play it 800 times on TBS. But yeah, there is definitely a lot to be learned there. What are some of the other ideas that you picked up?
Oh, well, at one point Dalton tells the doc, pain doesn't hurt. And that's an easy phrase, an easy line to sort of discard as, he's being macho, flippant, whatever. But when you're in an actual life-threatening situation, the understanding that there's a difference between pain and injury. And the pain, while it indicates a possible problem, it in and of itself is not a problem. It's if you feel pain, you assess and you realize, nope, that's not life-threatening, doesn't need immediate attention, then you can, if you're aware, if you can make that distinction, that difference, and self-diagnose that way, especially in the heat of the moment, then that can enable you to carry on with what needs to be done, what needs to be handled right now, and move past the pain, which is relatively temporary. It's pain is your body's way of saying, hey, there might be a problem here, but if you assess and go, okay, I can deal with that later, it enables you to stay in the moment and deal with the bigger problems in the situation. So that's another one. I don't know. And then some of the others that struck me were, there's a quote where Dalton says, take the biggest guy in the world, shatter his knee, and he'll drop like a stone. And that kind of speaks to a lot of different things, as a martial artist.
Well, especially as a SEALOT practitioner, I mean that's structure, that's affecting structure, and that's a big hallmark of the SEALOT.
Exactly, and and look for in the C-lot. Yeah, I want to affect structure. I want to affect mobility. One of my personal mottos, if I have to go physical, is from the moment I touch them to the moment I stop touching them, they should be in pain and off balance. And the knees are a great place to cause both pain and disbalance. But even beyond that, if you can find whatever your issue is, even outside of martial arts and fighting, if you can find what is giving the problem legs, and you can take that and attack that instead of the head, the arms, whatever. So commonly we look at a problem and we see the most obvious elements, but they are actually symptoms of the root cause, not the problem itself. And we try and deal with those symptoms, and we end up fighting a never-ending battle. But if we can find that root cause and dig into it, we can often finish it much quicker, much more efficiently, whether it's a physical fight or running out of gas on the highway. So.
Now, Mike, summing up the lessons that you learned here, where can people see the original article that you wrote?
The website is at trainagps.blogspot.com. Or you can go to trainagps.com, which is my main website for my martial art, and click on the curriculum, or not the curriculum, the blog link there, and that will get you to the blog on Blogspot.
Okay, excellent. Well, Mike, thank you for coming on to share these insights about such a, I want to even say cherished, B movie from my, childhood and early teens. And I'm sure that there isn't a person out there practicing martial arts who hasn't come across this at least one time in their life. So again, thank you, Mike, for sharing with us. And we're going to get you back on soon for a talk about your martial arts system. So I look forward to that.
Excellent. Thank you.